Well, hello, this is SLR Tom, and this is one of my favorite cameras, the Panasonic GH5. How do you make it even better? Now, you can make it better by installing an updated firmware. Now, with the camera comes, the software that the camera comes with from the factory is typically not the latest software they offer, and with the new releases they offer sometimes a bunch, sometimes some improvements in what's in this camera. So when you update the firmware, you basically update the brain of the camera. Well, not technically the hardware brain, but the software. You know what that is. It's the operating system that runs all the features, all the codecs. And then there's also companies like, for example, Magic Lantern. They have the software for Canons, and they provide features that Canon doesn't provide. Okay, so the risks with the firmware update. First of all, you want to make sure that your battery is fully charged. You do not want to risk a camera shutting down during firmware update, because that could potentially break, and by break meaning turn this into a brick. It could, destroy the camera basically. I think it's smart enough to know not to start the firmware update with the low battery, but just a rule of thumb, charge it anyway. Okay. Also use a reliable SD card and freshly formatted in a camera. We're gonna get to that, okay? First of all, let's check the version of the firmware on the camera, okay? We're gonna turn the camera on. It says no memory card, that's okay. Let's go to the menu, and it's in the setup menu here, okay? And let's see. You're gonna go to version display. This is the third tab under the setup menu here, okay? Version display. So the body firmware is version 1.0. Whoa, I guess that's really, really old. And my lens firmware is also version 1.0, okay? So let's get started, and we're gonna update this GH5. When we check the battery level, that's low. So we have to make sure to use a new battery or charge this one, obviously. We want to use a quality card. So what we want to do here is format the card in camera. Now formatting, I typically, for this, I'm going to put it in slot 1. Formatting the camera prepares it, sets up all the file structure, file system for the specific camera I'm formatting in. So if I format it in GH5, when the camera gets formatted in the GH5 recognizes all the folder structure, all the files that exist on the card, okay? So we want to make sure to format the card in the GH5, especially before firmware update, okay? So that's here as well. That's in the last tab. In the setup menu, we want to format. Now I made sure that the card doesn't have any images on it, so slot 1. Delete all data. Yes, we want to delete all data. Okay, so please wait. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna swap or charge the battery, and I'll show you how to download the firmware and put it on the SD card, okay? To download the Panasonic GH5 update, head on to this website here. You'll notice the latest firmware was updated on December 11th, 2017, so quite recently. You can't download anything from this site. You have to scroll down and agree to the terms. Shows you a way here how you can check the firmware on bodies, like a general Panasonic instruction. When we scroll down, we have to go ahead and accept, and then here we go. This is where we see the update for the GH5. Now we're gonna click this blue link here to download. Tells you here, like some improvements, like release notes for this latest firmware. The version 2.2, that's what we'll be installing. So we gotta scroll down a bit more, and I'm on Windows here, so we're gonna download the version for Windows. Okay, so click download. You save the file. So I created a folder GH5 under my downloads. We save that file there. So here's the file. Okay, that's an application file. So we're gonna double click this. Brings you to this screen, and this is the destination folder. So now what this actually creates, this application creates the installer. The bin file is the installer file with the firmware. I'm showing this on a PC, Windows 10. So we inserted a freshly formatted SD card. It's a 64 gigabyte card. Inside the GH5 it was formatted, so it shows as Lumix, and I think that's very important, because that means you formatted the card correctly. So what you're gonna do now is take the bin file that we created, okay, this bin file, and we're gonna put it into the root of the card. Okay, so we take this bin file, drag it over here, copy it to the card, and it is very small file. I mean, this is only like 60 megabytes, and this is the entire software for the GH5. Okay, so now we're gonna remove it properly, eject, and we're gonna put it back in the camera. All right, so let's do it. I'm always a little bit nervous before doing the firmware, because if it goes wrong, then the camera's toast. Okay. All right. Well, let's. We put in a fresh battery. We're gonna put in a that formatted card with the bin file in there with the firmware into slot 1. Okay. So we're gonna turn this thing on, and we have to press play. When you press play, there's a subroutine that executes, and it finds that bin file, and it should run. Okay. So it says, please wait. Whoa, so we're updating the body from version whatever we had, which was 1.0, to version 2.0. Start version up. Hell yeah. All right, well, let's do this. Okay. Version ongoing. Do not operate any buttons. So you want to be sure not to touch anything, and I really mean it. Okay. All right, let's see how long this is gonna take. Am I shaking? Can you notice my hands are shaking? Okay. All right, so that's actually going pretty fast. Should only take like a minute. So this firmware also includes, what's really cool, is a 1080p 10-bit 422 codec. That's a new codec. Okay, that looks like that's it. Okay, so let's go to the menu. Does this look different? I don't know yet, but let's go to version display. So body firmware now is version 2.2. We could do lenses later. I'm not gonna show that in this video here, but let's see if we go to quality menu. Wow, look at all these options now in the quality menu. This is amazing. One other thing I hope it fixes is that this camera is not the greatest camera for blogging, because the autofocus tends to really go into the background, not into the foreground. So I'm gonna test this. You know, this is one of my favorite cameras, but because of the autofocus, I don't really use it much besides studio or really controlled environment. So yeah, I'm really happy we did this. And if you're in, if your camera is on any other version than the latest version of the firmware, I do recommend that you update as soon as possible. As you can see, the process is fairly easy. If you have any questions, post them below. If you like this video, please subscribe. There's gonna be more videos to come. Thanks for watching. SLR Tom.